Yeah, well, I could feel I guess one thing I'm really conscious of with myself is I am sensitive to other people's reactions and energy. And one of the reasons I was attracted to free birth was to limit the amount of energy in the space, that it could be purely me and you. And that sort of felt very natural to me. And obviously the baby's energy and its process in birth. But yeah, I'm not someone that likes to be touched a lot in labour. So I know for a lot of women, to have a doula or a friend or a partner who wants to massage and hold, and those things are really helpful. And I wish that was something. I love massage normally, but I just, when people touch me when I'm in labour, I'm like, get away from me. So you were sort of sitting there and you were very solid and just strong and kind of calm and quiet. I just remember looking at you and thinking, oh, there's this very strong, calm presence here who isn't worried. I think it's almost, look, this is I'm still working through this, but I've had a bit of a like epiphany around victimhood and my own relationship to that. And this is very much me reflecting on myself. So I don't want anyone to write to me saying that I'm triggering them. But like, I can feel a tendency to dramatize and a sense of being the victim of the experience as opposed to the owner of the experience. And I felt like that came up for me a little bit in this birth, where I could have let the pain own me and gone into drama and gone into a sort of habituated pattern that wouldn't have served me and would have probably changed the trajectory of the birth quite dramatically. And having your steadfast presence there, I guess, reminded me or gave me a compass to point toward of, that's like, I'm okay because that's okay. And I don't want to embarrass myself by behaving like a drama queen right now, because I know I'm actually not dying, even though I want to tell everybody I'm dying. Like, that was kind of, I can reflect now that that was sort of playing out a little bit, because yes, it was incredibly painful, but it wasn't like, I could handle it, and as evidenced by the fact that I did handle it and I was handling it. And if I reflect, a lot of the mental gymnastics around, can I cope with this much pain, is again just a way of avoiding actually being in the experience and actually surrendering to what was occurring in my body and in the moment. So, I'm still working through a lot of this stuff, but I can feel that. And also like the kind of bombastic like challenge to, I can handle pain and I'm tough, and that sort of response, it isn't a surrender to it, it's actually like a challenge to it or a fight. And that energy was there a little bit for me too. And those things I think were really beautiful. I needed that experience. I needed to have that experience. I needed to feel those sensations and meet them how I did. And a part of me is incredibly proud of myself for being strong and brave and not walking away from it and not hiding from it and meeting it. And I feel like the longer it went on, the more I surrendered to it, in terms of like allowing my body to move how it needed to, and like doing things like biting the fucking edge of the pool and like
in my belly.
And sorry, that was an accidental bite. I didn't realize there was a human there. Yes, I was pretty out of it in my primal self, but, like throwing my legs around where I needed them to be, and kind of like, I've joked that I sort of felt like I was dancing him out at some points, but I was, like throwing my legs all across the pool and changing positions, trying to go to the bathroom a couple of times, which didn't work particularly well for me. But yeah, I just feel like that whole experience was really kind of around my own relationship with how I deal with challenge and things like that. And that's come a lot out of the birth imprint too. The work I've done with Jane and some other stuff I've been kind of working through. And I think it's funny because I didn't actually ever want to transfer, but I did think once about, oh my God, if I had to transfer, I'd have to get in a car and I would not be allowed to be in my birth pool. And it would be so horrible to sit in a car and try and have these contractions. I just remember thinking like, I'd actually rather have this baby than try and go and have any drugs like a cesarean or anything. I was like, it's actually easier and better to stay here because it's safe and comfortable. And I remember talking to another friend afterward, and she said, oh, if I'd given birth in a hospital, I would have taken the drugs because they're available, And I think there is this sort of like, it's like self-limiting to like be at home because you're like, well, I don't have these things, so I have to dig deep and find the reserves. And that for me, I think, was what I found so rewarding about this birth in particular, was I feel like I got to dig very deep into my strength and my like capacity to hold myself and be held through this experience and through the pain. And yeah, so I think transition obviously is always pretty fun when you're kind of a bit over it and you got to keep going. And like I said, the pushing stage never really came for me. I felt like I pushed all through all of the active labor. Like the only thing I could Like I just felt like I constantly had to bear down to get any sense of kind of physicality out of the contractions. Like they were strong and they were doing things, but I just couldn't feel the baby was moving down. Whereas I remember with Aya having that really, I remember saying to you with Aya, like, oh, there's a bend. And I didn't ever feel that with Leo, where I could feel him moving around the bend or any of that sort of stuff. I felt like there was just this really powerful contractions and really strange sensations and no traction or no ability to hold or feel where the baby was moving through. But eventually I felt a...
Well, can I reflect just up until that point? Because that was a pivotal point. There was no formula, but there's a few things I just I'm going to indulge just in my reflection because I'm really enjoying thinking back. So just for me, looking at in terms of being like a calm presence without that being about I'm going to numb myself or become complacent or just put ambiguous trust in the mother. I think we talked a lot about pain. That was like the difference between going like, I'm going to have a home birth because I don't trust myself. I'm going to go for the drugs. And ideally, I don't want to be taking drugs. So I'm going to deprive myself. Just knowing you, like I knew that
I've never wanted to take.
Well, not, yeah, but like, and it's different. You were like, no, this is my intention. You're inviting the pain, want the pain. And so that was, I don't know if you want it, but you know what I mean? So that was the first thing that we talked about pain enough, or I've talked enough about. That was just never going to get a rise out of me, pain, unless I knew the edges. I knew the type of pain. I knew how you would be relating to the pain. I know you enough. And then I've talked to you enough about you knowing your body that I'm like, okay, cool. Tans is going to be my barometer for like something, being wrong. And the other one was in terms of like watching for consciousness, whether you're going out of consciousness or not, which is another one I thought about and, got referred to in the course. So I knew my red flags, which knowing my red flags meant that I didn't have to be a drama king. And I think for me, thankfully, I've been in so much ceremonious space, and whether that's just self-induced or using psychedelics, I know what it's like to be in that realm. And you were so heavily in that realm. And I knew some people like being touched or interacted with in that space. But regardless, you need to be facilitated to be in whatever space you need to be in. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is the music is like the chords you don't strike.